Hi friends, welcome to English Study Point. Today in this video lecture, I am going to discuss another part of Meg Flecknoe by John Dryden. Here I am starting with the lines. Close to the walls which fair Augusta bind. This line refers to the city of London, highlighting its boundaries and nearby areas, setting a geographical context for the poem. The fair Augusta much to fears incline. So this suggests that London is beautiful but also subject to fears, possibly alluding to the dangers and vices that exist within the city. An ancient fabric raised inform the site, so describes an old building that was once meant to be impressive or informative, hinting at its former glory. There stood of yore and Barbican it height, so refers to a historical watchtower called Barbican, indicating its purpose as a guardian of the city in the past. A watchtower once, but now, so fate ordains, conveys the idea of decline, showing that the tower, once significant, has fallen into disrepair and uselessness. Of all the pile, an empty name remains, suggests that now only the name remains, the physical structure has lost its value and function over time. From its old ruins, brothel houses rise, so indicates that from the remnants of the tower have emerged brothels, pointing to moral decay and the transformation of the area. Scenes of lewd loves and of polluted joys. So, this line describes the activities that occur in these brothels, emphasizing immorality and vice. Where their vast courts, the mother's trumpets keep. So, this refers to the mother's trumpets, procurers who manage the brothels, highlighting the organized nature of vice in this place. And undisturbed by watch in silent sleep, suggests that the brothels operate freely without interruption, indicating a lack of law enforcement or oversight. Near these, a nursery erects its head. So here introduces the idea of a nursery nearby, contrasting with the brothels and implying a space for innocence among the surrounding vice, where queens are formed and future heroes bred, raises the idea that this nursery has the potential to cultivate great individuals despite the surroundings, where unfledged actors learn to laugh and cry. So, this refers to young actors being trained in the nursery, preparing them for their careers in performance, where infant punks their tender voices try. So, this indicates that even the young are participating in the vices of the environment, emphasizing the pervasive nature of moral corruption, and little Maximin's the gods defy. So, this line refers to children who boldly challenge authority or traditional expectation, symbolizing a rebellion against established norms. So, this particular excerpt suggests a juxtaposition between deterioration of noble structures and the rise of moral degeneracy, reflecting Dryden's critique of society and the poets of his time. Now, here reading with next stanza, where we see Great Fletcher never trades in buskins here. So, this line suggests that the esteemed playwright John Fletcher, known for his dramatic works, does not wear buskins, a type of boot in this place. The imagery evokes a sense of elevated dramatic tradition, implying that only lesser poets or playwrights would appear in such a setting. Nor Greater Johnson dares in socks appear. So, Ben Jonson, another revered playwright, does not dare to appear in socks, which is a symbol of lower status in performance. So, this reinforces the idea that the environment Dryden describes is not worthy of these great talents, but gentle Simpkin just reception finds. So, this character Simpkin, likely an allusion to the minor poet Shadwell, whom Dryden mocks, manages to be accepted in this space. His presence is in stark contrast to the noble playwrights, suggesting he lacks the stature they possess. amidst the monument of vanished minds. So, the phrase monument of vanished minds could symbolize the former glory of great poets or playwrights whose creativity has been lost. This implies a decay of intellectual and artistic quality within the literary sphere. Then, pure clinches the suburban muse affords. So, this line critiques the quality of verse in the area, implying that it offers only simplistic or trivial insights. Clinches means trivial insights, perhaps from lesser poets who lack depth. And Panton waging harmless war with wars. So references the poet Panton as engaging in literary battles that are trivial and inconsequential, highlighting a lack of seriousness or depth in contemporary literary discourse. Here Flecknoe as a place to fame well known. So here we see this refers to Richard Flecknoe, emphasizing that this place, likely a metaphor for a poor literary environment, is now associated with his reputation for mediocrity. Ambitiously designed his Shadwell's throne. So Flecknoe, in allusion to Flecknoe himself, aspires to elevate Shadwell to a position of prominence, portraying him as a worthy hire in the realm of dullness. Then we see that for ancient Dekker prophesies long since. So Dryden references Thomas Dekker, who had foretold or prophesied of a figure who would reign over dullness. This adds a historical context to the satire, that in this pile should reign a mighty prince. So the pile refers to the literary circle or environment they exist in, as Flecknoe seeks to establish Shadwell as a mighty prince of mediocrity, born for a scourge of wit and flail of sense, suggests that Shadwell is destined to be a destroyer of cleverness and sensibility, highlighting his role as a critique of quality literature. To whom true dullness should remain Psyche's owe. So implies that those who represent true dullness, lack of intellect, would owe their existence to Shadwell, portraying him as a progenitor of mediocrity, but worlds of misers from his pen should flow, suggests that Shadwell will produce works that are financially motivated or lacking in substance, with worlds of misers indicating greed or poor quality. Humorists and hypocrites it should produce, suggests that the literary output will consist mainly of insincere individuals lacking authenticity or genuine humor. Whole Raymond families and tribes of Bruce refers to specific families, potentially referring to characters or historical figures that represent the mediocrity. Dryden critiques, suggesting that such lineages would emerge under Shadwell's influence. So, this excerpt from Flecknoe is a satirical portrayal of the state of contemporary literature and individuals involved in it, particularly targeting Thomas Shadwell. Dryden utilizes clever allusions, contrasting imagery, and biting critique to highlight the deficiencies he perceives in the literary community of his time. Now, in this stanza, we see now Empress Fame had published the renown. So, this line introduces the theme of fame and reputation, suggesting that Empress Fame, a personification of renown, has announced the glory of Shadwell, indicating his elevation in the literary world. Of Shadwell's coronation through the town. So, Shadwell's coronation signifies his appointed status as the poet laureate or leading playwright, mocking the absurdity of such a little title when applied to Shadwell. Roused by report of fame, the nations meet. So the mention of nations signifies a gathering of diverse poets and spectators intrigued by this event, highlighting its perceived importance. From near Bun Hill and distant Watling Street. Bun Hill was a burial ground in London, suggesting that even the dead poets are drawn to this event, while Watling Street points to far-off locations, emphasizing the far-reaching influence of this coronation. No Persian carpet spread the imperial way. Dryden contrasts the grandeur typically associated with royal ceremonies, suggesting that this event lacks dignity and opulence. No luxurious carpets are present, but scattered limbs of mangled poets lay. So instead of grandeur, the scene is grotesque, filled with mangled poets, symbolizing the defeated neglected authors whose work has been overlooked. From dusty shops, neglected authors come. So, this line shows that the authors arriving are those whose works are outdated or ignored, emerging from obscurity to participate in this satirical parody. Martyrs of pies and relics of the bun. So, this line includes humor and mockery, suggesting that these authors have suffered like martyrs for their work with pies, indicating they might be authors of failed comedies, and relics of the bum as a reference to bumbling or poorly received literary artifacts. Much Heywood, Shirley, Ogilvy, there lay. So Heywood, Shirley, and Ogilvy were contemporaneous playwrights. Their mention signifies established yet waning figures in the dramatic literature, adding to the critique of literary decline. But Lords of Shadwell almost choked the way. So Shadwell's overwhelming presence, his works and influence here presented as lords, is so suffocating that it obstructs the path, symbolizing his dominance in a negative light. Build stationers for yeomen stood prepared. Stationers refers to publishers or booksellers. Build implies they are prepared to be cheated, adding a layer of corruption and exploitation in the literary scene. Now, here in this line we see, and Herringman was captain of the guard. Herringman, a real publisher of the time, is depicted as a figure of authority. Means he is called as captain of the guard, suggesting his control over the literary output, further emphasizing the absurdity of the situation. The hoary prince in majesty appeared. So, hoary prince refers to Shadwell, indicating his age as well as his supposed wisdom or authority as a playwright, albeit with irony. So high on a throne of his own labors reared. Shadwell is elevated on a throne made from his own work, reinforcing the idea that he has elevated himself through self-promotion rather than through merit. At his right hand, our young Ascanius sat. So the young Ascanius symbolizes Shadwell's chosen successor, suggesting he is grooming someone, perhaps himself or his style, to carry on his legacy. Rome's other hope and pillar of the state. So the phrase other hope implies this young figure is also inapt, representing a failing literary tradition, a mock heroic portrayal of aspiring playwrights. His brows thick fogs instead of glory's grace. So this metaphor indicates that rather than wisdom or brilliance, confusion and dullness envelop Shadwell's mind, suggesting that his intellect is muddled. And lambent dullness played around his face. So Lambert dullness suggests a manifestation of ignorance or mediocrity, portraying him in an unflattering light as lacking any spark of creativity. So Dryden's Macflecknoe serves as a scathing critique of both Shadwell and the state of English drama, showcasing the absurdity of undeserving acclaim in a corrupt literary marketplace. Now, here we see as Hannibal did to the altars come. So this allusion compares Shadwell to Hannibal, the famous general known for his enmity against Rome. The reference insinuates that Shadwell, like Hannibal, has a determined rival, the world of wit and intellectualism, represented by Dryden himself and others. Sworn by his sire a mortal foe to Rome. This suggests that Shadwell is bound by a familial, almost hereditary vow to oppose the Roman or civilized world of literature and intellect. Here, Rome symbolizes cultural refinement. So Shadwell swore, nor should his vow be vain. So Dryden is emphasizing Shadwell's commitment to his cause, intending to maintain dullness in literature. He portrays Shadwell's resolve as earnest rather than whimsical, that he till death true dullness would maintain. So this is a direct assertion of Shadwell's literary aim. Dryden mocks Shadwell's intention to persist in creating uninspired works that lack wit and vitality. And in his father's right and realm's defense, So here is a reference to father's right, which suggests a legacy or heritage in dullness. It implies that Shadwell feels entitled to produce mediocrity, which he defends as a form of art. Never to have peace with wit nor truce with sense. So Shadwell's declaration against the cleverness and sensibilities of higher literature emphasizes his intention to reject intellect. There's a sense of pride in this folly which Dryden finds absurd. The king himself the sacred unction made. This indicates a royal endorsement of Shadwell's reign over dullness, portraying him as a monarch in his own right, emphasizing the absurdity of attributing grandeur to mediocrity, as king by office and as priest by trade. So Dryden illustrates the dual role of Shadwell as both a king and a priest in the realm of dullness, suggesting that his work is almost sanctified within its own context. In his sinister hand instead of ball. Sinister hand denotes the left hand, often associated with negative connotations. Instead of a regal orb, the traditional symbol of royal authority, Shadwell holds something comedic. He placed a mighty mug of potent ale. So the mighty mug of potent ale replaces noble symbols, indicating Shadwell's dominion over drunken folly rather than royal reasoning. This portrays a triviality in his reign. Love's kingdom to his right he did convey. So this phrase indicates that romantic or emotional themes are casually relegated to Shadwell's right hand. It juxtaposes high art love against the vulgarity of ale, at once his captor and his rule of sway. So the mug signifies both authority and influence in a comedic context, emphasizing the ridiculous nature of his kingship, whose righteous lore the prince had practiced young. So this line alludes to Shadwell's education in dullness, hinting at his inability to grasp sophistication, which further entertains the reader through irony, and from whose loins recorded Psyche sprung. Psyche, seen as a symbol of the soul in classical mythology, conveys a heritage of creative potential that Shadwell fails to embody. It indicates the disconnect between possible literary greatness and Shadwell's mediocrity. His temples, last with popples, were overspread. Poppies signify sleep and oblivion, emphasizing the dullness of Shadwell's creative output, suggesting he is in a stupor, disconnected from the vibrancy of true art. That nodding seemed to consecrate his head. So the imagery of poppies nodding as if to bless or legitimize Shadwell's reign is ironic, humorously addressing the absurdity of his position as a poet, just at that point of time, if fame not lie. So this speaks to the credibility of public perception, suggesting that the following depiction of Shadwell's realm is widely acknowledged, though perhaps exaggerated. On his left hand, 12 reverent owls did fly. Owls symbolize wisdom, but here they are presented as a strange reverent presence that is both mocking and ironic, suggesting that wisdom is nowhere to be found in Shadwell's court. So, in this particular paragraph, we see Dryden uses vivid imagery, irony, and allusion throughout these lines to construct a rich satire of Shadwell. The poem critiques not only Shadwell's literary abilities but also the nature of art and intellect during the Restoration era. Here in this stanza, or in this particular excerpt, we see so Romulus, 'tis sung by Tiber's brook. This alludes to Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome, who was said to have been inspired by omens beside the Tiber River. Dryden compares the rise of Shadwell to the grand beginnings of ancient heroes. Presage of sway from twice six vultures took. Romulus was said to have taken meaning from the flight of birds. The twice six vultures, 12 in total, symbolizes extraordinary science, accepted for greatness, mocking Shadwell's lesser talent. The admiring throng loud acclamations make. So this line describes a crowd praising Romulus. Dryden uses this to satirically echo how Shadwell receives unearned admiration for his works. Unearned. admiration for his works and omens of his future empire day. So the crowd interprets the omens as indicators of Romulus' destined greatness, paralleling the misguided interpretations of Shadwell's supposed literary prowess. The sire then shook the honors of his head. So, this could refer to a parent or mentor figure, recognizing the absurdity of the situation regarding the false praise, suggesting awareness of Shadwell's shortcomings, and from his brows, dams of oblivion shed. So, the dams of oblivion implies forgetting or ignorance, a metaphor for the lack of substance and true talent in Shadwell's works. Full on the filial dullness, long he stood. So, dullness signifies Shadwell's own mediocrity. The father figure stands as a long time grasping the extent of this dullness, reflecting Dryden's disapproval. Repelling from his breast the raging god. This indicates a struggle against the divine inspiration, the raging god that would normally create greatness but does not apply to Shadwell. At length burst out in the prophetic mood. Finally, the father figure gathers his thoughts to express an insightful prophecy concerning Shadwell, marking a shift to a more direct critique. Heavens bless my son from Ireland, let him reign. So the father blesses Shadwell emerging from Ireland, a reflection of Shadwell's origins and perhaps suggesting a limited sphere of influence to far Barbados on the western main. So the mention of Barbados signifies a far reach, yet in the context it suggests that Shadwell's reign will not achieve true greatness despite the geographical breadth of his dominion may no end be known. So this line humorously wishes for an unending domain for Shadwell, mocking the idea of his capabilities and literary legacy, and greater than his father's be his throne. So Dryden contrasts Shadwell to himself. Dryden is considered a literary father, ironically suggesting that Shadwell could surpass him, which is almost absurd. Beyond love's kingdom, let him stretch his span. So, love's kingdom could symbolize the romantic or poetic themes typically explored in literature. Dryden chids Shadwell for overreaching beyond his talents. He paused, and all the people cried, Amen. So, this line depicts the crowd's endorsement, means approval of the partial blessing, indicating mob mentality and how the masses often cheer mediocrity without discernment. Then thus continued he, my son, advance. So the father figure continues his speech, instructing Shadwell on how to move forward in life and art. Still in new impudence, new ignorance. So Dryden acutely describes Shadwell's approach, indicating that his audacity and ignorance are unfortunately ever evolving traits. Success let other teach, learn thou from me. So the father contrasts true success with Shadwell's failures, advising him instead to learn the pain of struggling without true achievements, pangs without birth, and fruitless industry. So this final line encapsulates the sense of artistic endeavor gone wrong, efforts that result in no worthwhile creations, emphasizing Shadwell's lack of talent. So Dryden in this particular excerpt uses elaborated mock heroic elements to critique the inadequacy of Thomas Shadwell through parodying grand literary traditions, ultimately asserting that mediocrity can often be mistakenly lauded by the masses.